What's your story of finding a place that shouldn't have existed? When I was in college, the freshman dorms were these massive 10-story, apartment-like structures. Every other floor, even numbered floors, had a little lounge on the east side of the building with a TV and couches and stuff. It was meant to be a community space. We noticed that on the subsequent floors, odd numbers, this space still physically existed, but was walled up behind a brick wall for some reason. We managed to pry up some ceiling tiles, climb through rafters and drop down in. They were literally the exact same lounges as the even numbered floors, complete with dusty couches still there, just bricked up and not used. No one was ever able to explain to us why they had decided to wall off the student lounges on half the building, or why they left the furniture there when they did so. Having dealt with universities and contractors in the past, here is my take on this. The contract was for a lounge on every other floor. Contractor messed up and put one on every floor. They found their mistake very late in the game after furniture was delivered. If they gave the university more than they asked for, it would end up being a huge headache, with the university demanding an audit inspection to see what else was done off contract, which is terrifying for any contractor, but especially university ones who like to cut corners. So, the decision was made to wall off the extra lounges at the last minute, so the space appeared as contracted in time for first inspection. No time to move out furniture or anything like that. The money lost was spread out over myriad change orders issued after the initial inspection and before acceptance. I suspect that the designers were 1. Trying to save a little money, and 2. Trying to get people from both floors to mingle. I was in a similar dorm. Each pair of floors was twinned, in that there was a central lounge on each floor, actually one huge room reaching up through both floors, with a mezzanine on the upper floor. That was the TV lounge with big couches, where people from both floors gathered. The lower level of the lounge was mainly a study area with chairs and tables. So yes, one TV lounge for both floors, and one big study area that both floors could use. I suspect that this was the idea. In your building, I suspect they just didn't want to pay for/maintain a TV lounge on both floors. One summer I worked for an underground utility company in the greater DC area. We would put an electronic signaling device on a pipe or wire and trace where it went with a receiver tuned to that specific frequency, marking the ground above it with color-coded spray paint. We were the cool before you dig people. Anyway, we were doing a job at a NSA satellite site where they were going to be doing new construction. We were following this wire, and it took a sharp turn away from the rest of the utilities and went straight into the woods at the edge of the site. We started tracing that line and marking it off when 4 MPs came sprinting up to us, commanding us to halt and demanding to know why we were going that way. We showed them how the receiver was picking up the signal and leading off into the woods. They told us not to worry about it because there's nothing out that way, and directed us back to the main area. There was a lot of power going to that nothing. Not sure if this counts, but it's one of the weirdest things that ever happened to me. Walked into a little neighborhood bar so my wife could use the restroom. While she went looking for that, I sat at the bar and ordered a beer. The bartender looked at me like I was insane. I repeated myself and pointed to the taps. "Can I get a Newcastle, please? Who are you? I don't see why that matters. Can I get that beer? This isn't a bar. This is my home. Get out." "Well, can I wait for my wife to get back from the bathroom?" I look around and notice that he's serious. He has a nice bar in his living room, but the next room has a couch and a TV. There are pictures of his family on the walls. I guess his door was open when I walked by and I misread the situation. That was fucking weird. Bit more lighthearted, but here ya go. We moved to Virginia about 10 years ago. The house was bought on foreclosure, and for the first time, because the water table here is too high for most places to have a basement, we use the attic to store things. In the attic is what can be best described as a hutch, outfitted with electric sockets and extra insulation. Has its own door too. Mom, a former criminal prosecutor, had seen things like this used to grow weed. We took to calling it the pot house, and now we store Christmas decorations in it. I was out running errands at lunch in the middle of July in North Carolina. I stopped at what looked like a convenience store to grab a drink. When I walked in, it was a small Japanese market. Was not expecting that. I go to pay for my soda and see they have a menu board and I can smell something delicious coming from the back. I decided to order some chicken teriyaki and a rainbow roll. Fucking amazing. It became my new go-to lunch spot and I was there 3 to 4 days a week and took every one I could. Why shouldn't it be there? Because I was in a bumfuck shithole area of NC and finding such amazing Japanese food in a tiny little store like that generally doesn't exist in places like that. I moved away 2 to 3 years later. When I went back 6 months after moving they were gone. I'm fairly certain I was keeping them in business. Haha. I got a place like this in Nipa in the heart of Seoul region. While pizza isn't as out of place there as sushi in NC, the owners are. It's this amazing little pizza shop in this 100% what you'd picture Seoul town from the 1800s that has had the same families living there since, and no one leaves or moves there. This town has a gas station, maybe 2 little restaurants, and nothing more. The owner is first generation Italian American, photos of him, and 90s celebrities all over the walls. I once asked him, hey *OWNER** where all these photos from? To which he kindly replied, when I ran a catering service in New York City. Clearly, his business was doing really well in New York City in the 90s. So why the hell did he move to this Seoul region town you may ask? Perhaps his wife is from here? Nope. She's first generation Chinese American. Our current guess is witness protection relocated him to the town. The trial he was protected for / buy up and ended, and instead of relocating back, he decided to stay and open up a pizza place. From my previous account, so don't yell about the copy pasta stealing. Driving in rural areas in New England, near the borders of Vermont and Mass, so I'm not sure which one I was in. It was late. Well okay, so late it was actually early. And there was fog, dense fog. Like Silent Hill levels of fog. And like an idiot who dies in the opening scene of a horror movie, I'm driving on back roads. First my headlight just up and goes out. Cannot use high beams because of fog. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I haven't seen a house or town in a long time. Car starts making noise. Check engine light comes on. So I pull over, nothing much around, field and fog and dark. Creepy as hell. I gamely look at the engine. I can fix electronics, not engines. I tightened all the things I know. Car now won't start. So I'm in the dark, in the middle of nowhere, on the side of the road. Because of the natural rules of how things work, my cell phone has no service as well. It is like one big cliche. But I'm not stupid enough to go wandering the roads right now. So I recline my seat and decide to take a nap for a couple hours until the sun comes up. I wake up, the sun is coming up, the fog is going away, and I'm in on the main street of a tiny town, parked in front of what looks like the Bates Motel house. Houses everywhere. It was the creepiest feeling. I was sure enough in the woods. There was not a light on in any house all night. There was a service station 50 yards up the road. I walked up to it, talked to the guy, who looked perfectly normal. He walked over to look at the car, asked me to try to start it, and it did. Fucking thing turned over right away. And both headlights were working. I drove on, never got the name of the little village, and I couldn't find it on a map. I always felt like I was in this big setup for a horror movie that just didn't pan out. Me and a group of friends walked around a former Royal Air Force bunker. The site is now open to the public as a museum. However, on our tour we came across this door in a quiet portion of the bunker. I obviously had to have my photo taken in front of it as it looked like something straight out of a movie, lol. Perhaps the bunker didn't close and maybe the RAF or Ministry of Defense are still using part of the bunker for something. I mean, it would be ideal cover. Set up part of the site as a Cold War museum open to the public, lol. The door even has a cat flap in it for some reason, haha. Downtown LA back in the days of Al's Bar, early 90s, I was sitting outside in the car, parked at the curb waiting for my husband to wrap up his show at the bar. All of a sudden the fucking sidewalk opened up like a bat cave or something, and a bunch of people walked up a few steps out of the passage in the sidewalk and headed down the street. Before the sidewalk opening closed up, I ran to it and went down a short flight of stairs where I found a full-on raging nightclub, probably 100 or more people all dressed up and partying hard. I had been waiting for my husband to finish up his show, so I was afraid he might be out there worrying When I made my way out, same way I came in, I could only shake my head in wonder. Outside there was absolutely no indication of anything that could be going on down below. Nothing. Nada and my husband wouldn't buy my story until I made him sit there for quite some time waiting for someone to exit the place, which they finally did. After that he never questioned my stories and he always hushed anyone who did.